Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to Rage and Love, where we passionately explore and debate religion, science, history, and current events. Humans follow social norms because they can provide a sense of belonging in society, okay? So we stick to the expectations of a group that has helped our ancestors survive, right? Because this reduces conflict. But social norms are currently reinforced through cultural traditions, upbringing, and social pressure. So this kind of makes it feel normal for us, even when they limit individuality or perpetuate inequality. And while norms can promote harmony, they can also be tools of control, enforcing outdated ideas of gender, body expectations, religious morality, and identity. But these systems were not built for freedom. So challenging them isn't just rebellion, it's how progress happens. I hope you're ready for some unfiltered truth and maybe a little chaos because joining us today is someone who knows all about breaking free. Punk Apostate.
Hey,
Welcome,
hey,
guys.
Hey, Brently, welcome.
hey, thank you. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
It's good to have you here. Um, well, I mean, as I said, your channel name is Punk Apostate. Why don't you tell people a little bit about you, just like a introduction to you?
Little
Who are
bio.
you?
Okay. Yeah, no, I was like a homeschooled, heavily indoctrinated. I was, like lived my whole life as a really dedicated evangelical until about 10 years ago. And just a couple different things happened all at once. I think that kind of helped break me out of it. But a big part of that was podcasts. And so I was like, you know what? I want to do that because, like, breaking out of that religious brain cage was really helpful for me to just be able to move forward in my life. So I was like, I want to be able to help people with that. And one of the ways that that snapped me out of it was a comedy podcast. I was a Christian listening to a atheist comedy podcast, and because it was so funny, I kind of forgot that I was listening to an atheist show, and it sort of just like snuck in, like kind of like what is so wrong with religion and everything, and it kind of helped me just start thinking when I hadn't before. So so I do that now. It's an atheist comedy channel.
That's awesome.
Great
I
start.
really enjoy that too, like watching other people's content because it you realize that through that conversation, it helps you sort of like deconstruct a lot of ideas that you didn't even realize were part of like religion, right? So
Right. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really cool.
it sneaks a lot of stuff into your brain and gets it real deeply rooted in there, and it's like half the time it's like subconscious stuff that
Hmm.
you're not even realizing that this is dictating your behavior and everything. It's crazy.
Right? Yeah, yeah. I even find I've called myself an atheist for like a year now, but my deconstruction started a long time ago. But yeah, like I'm even still today, I keep finding things, and I'm like, wow, like I hadn't, really connected that to religion before.
Right.
S-
Yeah. Were you just like not were you an agnostic before, or were you like scared you didn't want to have that atheist title?
well,
I
I,
get it
I
if you did.
no, I grew up with no religion, which is funny because like my mom was an atheist, but like she didn't really call herself an atheist. It was just like, I don't believe in any gods. It was kind of just like that. So we didn't really put any thought on religion. Like we had religious books at home. She had tons of books, but to me they were all like myths, even the Bible. So it wasn't. But I grew up in Argentina, which was like a very rural area where I lived. It was like there was no church. There was like one school. It was like a really small
Oh,
place. So moving to the United States, it was like shock, culture shock,
oh, I
and
bet.
like really getting into like the religious aspect of the different culture. Yeah, so I was exposed to like Mormons, and they would come to our house and knock on the door. My mom would let them in and like have conversations with them. But it was
Oh,
like,
wow.
like from her side, that like she was just like engaging them. I think she was trying to convert them to atheism.
She was trying to bring them over to the other side.
Right? Try to get them thinking at least, right? Like, huh.
Right. She was good at that. So I
That's
guess
awesome,
that's where I got my sort of conversational skills
right?
from my
Oh,
mom.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, her mom loves to talk. She could talk to you for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, that's yeah, my family's like that too. To a problematic level of that, honestly. It's get you
Yeah.
what work.
So I have a question for you. Okay, obviously your channel name is Punk Apostate, and you talk a lot about like going to punk shows and all of that. So how did you go from religious fundy to punk apostate?
The weird thing was that because we were like in the Calvary Chapel movement, it was like heavily focused on the fundamentalist beliefs and all that type of stuff, and it was very insular. We were a lot of like I said, we were all like a lot of us were homeschooled and everything, but they were also the whole thing with Calvary Chapel is that we don't care how you look, you can be a hippie. Like the whole thing was a hippie movement, and the hippies can come to this church and dress how they dress and still love Jesus or whatever, right? So our church had like a skate park. It was like very like our band that like we did the youth band, and we did all the songs in punk style and stuff. So it was very much like I was a punk back then, but it was like punk in fucking name only. You know what I mean? Like it was just like
Yeah.
the style. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
I
Yeah, just
see.
using that style to basically religious punk, I guess you would say, because y'all would play punk music, but to like religious hymns and stuff, or like religious lyrics.
Yeah, well, yeah, we
Yeah.
took like a lot of the popular worship songs that's like Lord, I lift your name on high and stuff like that.
Okay.
We would do them like
Uh,
reggae or punk. Um,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
just funny because we were thinking we were being rebellious, right? Because we were convinced that we're rebelling against the world, the whole world we're rebelling against, which is just not how it works at all. Like Christians are the world. Are you kidding me? Like they're the most popular religion on planet Earth, yet we thought that we were raging against the atheist planet. It was like, no, none of that.
yeah, but that's like the whole idea of like the oppression against the Christians. It's like they feel oppressed, so they have to fight back, and yeah, that makes sense though.
Yeah,
It totally
yeah,
makes
it was
sense. Yeah.
very much. Yeah, yeah, we had a lot of the yeah, feeling like we're being oppressed, even though we're just mad we can't oppress. That's usually what it was. But
Yeah, and speaking of oppression, what is it like now that you've gone through all that transition? What does being punk mean to you, like in the fight against the actual oppression, like
right.
what we're living through right now? Politically.
Oh yeah. No, let's see. And that's where and that's why I'm almost glad that I was at least allowed that little bit of freedom to be, into punk and stuff, because I was actually able to like get into bands and stuff that weren't Christian. And they talk about politics a lot, right?
Mhm.
But I didn't really understand any of the lyrics. I listened to like NoFX, and they have like the war on errorism was like once. It was back when George Bush was in there. And it was all it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah. I know that
very.
album.
Oh, you know what I'm talking? Okay, hell
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
hell yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. But yeah, so I was like listening to that album. Of course, I was sneaking it. I wasn't really supposed to be listening to that. But yeah, it's so I'm listening to the lyrics, and like I knew our family was supporting George Bush, and yet here they are in this band saying that
Mhm.
he's like really harmful and everything. And I was just like, I would ask my parents and my family about it, and I get this weird like non-answer answer. Well, we believe actually as Christians that we are supposed to be able to do, and they would go into some just like rationalizing around like everything. And as somebody that doesn't really understand the political positions in the first place, it was very confusing. So I didn't really get a lot of it. But as I like, went on and got older, talking to a lot more people, and you kind of realize that Christianity and right wing stuff is exactly the opposite of what is punk, which is like looking out for the little guy,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
going, helping the oppressed people, right? And they got it completely backwards. They were like, no, we need to be the person that needs to oppress everybody, and be cool with the billionaires, right? The and yeah, cozy up to them. And that's counterculture. It's like absolutely not. It's not counterculture. Like you got to be for the outcast, for the little guy, And yeah, that would just start to realize, especially when I got a little bit older, ended up like on the streets and addicted and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of see how life is down there on the bottom, and you realize that it's not, a lot of this is just oppression and just being the victims of systemic problems that were caused by religious right-wing institutions.
Yeah, Joe, what about you? I know you also kind of had a similar, I
Yeah,
would
I
say,
would
like
say
music.
I was never religious really. My family, my mom, and my family were, but I never fit into that. I was always kind of the outsider because I listened to punk music at a in my teens, and that got me involved in the political atmosphere basically. Like you mentioned, the Bush administration. That was probably one of the times in my life where I was like very, very political and involved in, and standing up for the little people, and pushing back against the system, and the norm of society basically. um in terms of religion though, I mean, I like I said, I never really got involved in it. I always I mean, I've always saw religion as being there, but I never saw it as a bad thing because I was never really too involved in it. So I never really understood how brainwashing or how involved it was in society. So I just kind of just ignored it. And so,
Yeah.
but then I did realize eventually, that just ignoring something doesn't mean that it's not going to affect you. So I mean, you have to just because it doesn't affect you, you shouldn't pretend it's not there.
Right. Well, and it's one of those things where it's like, if we're just talking about religion just as a thing on its own, it's like you can see how people are like, well, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
Mhm.
And, and that kind of is true. But like the whole basis of how religion works is very dishonest. And it's all about manipulation and control. And when it's those kind of like right wing Christian evangelical
Yeah,
type.
I would say that Christian nationalism is probably the thing that, because even back then when I was more involved in politics and stuff, Christianity or religion in general was always pushed, and it was always side by side, even though we're supposed to have the separation, but it's always been they've always been together. I mean, it's always been, if you're fighting one, you're going against the other because they're together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, and that was like you said, like the Bush administration was like he instituted like stuff to make religion like more more powerful and stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Make it
yeah.
like Christianity is part of America when it's not.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. And now we're, under this new administration, I mean, it's just insane, like the level of what they're pushing now, If
Yeah. Yeah. They
you thought the
especially
Bush administration was scary, wait to see what's happening now.
I would love to have the Bush administration back, which is crazy to say, but
Right, right.
So
yeah.
having seen like the Project 2025 ideas, and then realizing, which I didn't know until very recently, that this had actually been going on since the 70s, but under a different name, the Mandate for Leadership.
Oh,
So they had actually been trying to push it to every single Republican president since then. But obviously, the current one is the only one that truly, was like all in, like, hey, let me, put the whole book out there for you.
yeah.
By the book, I mean the Project 2025, which is like a huge 1,000-page book. Um,
Jesus.
Guide for Christian nationalism, basically. And that is exactly what they're doing. Like the one of the latest executive orders is literally written in Project 2025, which is to give the executive branch pretty much all of the power, and not the whole branch, actually, just the president. Okay, so
Right.
anyways, so given all of the protests that have been going on around lately for to fight against this, do you think that that is a good method, that this is gonna work? Like, is that the best thing that we can do, or what could we do to push back to with?
Well, I honestly, I gotta be totally honest here. I'm kind of bleak on all this stuff that's going on. So I'm almost in favor because the way that this bro oligarchy kind of thing is going, and the fact that they are trying to push this Christian nationalist stuff, I'm like, I'm almost, I always feel like we need to go back to chain emails because like they got all of our information, and yet they're like, clearly trying to like take over the government. We got Elon Musk, we got all the other tech leaders, and we got to try to combat the most powerful person on the planet working in the administration with another most powerful person on the planet, both, and we got to try to go against them. And we got to, we're protesting is great. I think that's an awesome thing, getting out in the streets and showing them, and being a pain in the ass to them or whatever. But at this point, I'm like, kind of, I don't know, because the last time, and he's been very emboldened this term, but in the last term, he sent unidentifiable federal agents over state lines to detain protesters. So I'm like, how much worse could they make it this time around for protesters?
They're gonna start
Um,
sending us to Gitmo, arresting it, rounding us up and sending us to Gitmo.
I mean, seriously,
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them, really. I mean, it
at
is
all.
scary.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
terrifying,
we
right?
went to the one of the 5051 protests, the first one they had here in Austin, and I hadn't been to a protest in, I don't know, 8 years or something,
Since probably
maybe
since like March for
yeah,
Science.
since she did the March for Science gathering. And I mean, I used to go to protests all the time, so I mean, it felt good, but again, it was scary because we were like, okay, is it a setup? Are they going to try to round us up? Or are we gonna, they had drones flying over us and taking pictures of everybody. They had state troopers walking around with cameras taking pictures of everybody. So I mean, they were definitely documenting who was there, and you probably using facial recognitions, techniques to put a database for everybody that attended these types of
Mhm.
protests.
Right. That's the type of stuff that freaks me out. I think the getting together in person though is really important. I think we need to do that more. And get on like meetup.com with like
Yeah.
zines, the
Yeah, like
zines.
grassroots, doing grassroots stuff, connections, basically. Get more involved in your local government, local elections and so forth, because it really does start from the bottom up.
Yeah.
You have to work your way into it.
Right. I just, and I'm kind of just like I said, bleak about it because we've never had this much power piled up in one spot before, as far as I can tell. Maybe I'm mistaken, but as far as I can tell, like this is the most power we've had piled
Well,
up in
it's
one little
kind of
area.
scary. They I don't know. They're definitely trying to make it seem like Trump has a lot of power right now, but I think that that's kind of an illusion that they're playing. I mean, if you remember back during the Iraq War when we did the shock and awe when Bush administration dropped all these huge bombs, on Iraq to like show a force of power and to basically disorient, the enemy. That's basically they're kind of using the same technique on this, a shock and awe technique of executive orders, and it makes it seem like he has a lot of power, but these executive orders, they're not law.
Right.
They're not. They can be stopped by by our judges, which Elon is bitching about, and even Trump bitching about. Even another administration can come in and overturn these executive orders after. So it's
Right.
not. Yes, it is scary, but I think that they're trying to bombard us to make us feel like he has more power than he actually does, and to make us feel like we don't have any ourselves, basically, to
Right.
give up and just let it happen.
Well, as long as they're listening to the courts still, I think that you're right. Once they start defying, because the vice president, JD Vance, he basically said, he's like, just defy the court orders and then
Oh
tell
yeah.
them that they
Yeah.
can just tell them to enforce their court order, and then just sit and just do it anyway because they can't really enforce it. And he's kind of not wrong. We don't really have an institution to enforce for the courts when the
Yeah,
the,
when they
the
go
government's
against it.
that
Yeah.
divided. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's kind of scary. But I see what you're saying. I'd like to, I'm trying to keep that positive
I
vibe
think I look for
in
the
my.
light, a little bit of light somewhere, and that's the only thing I can find so far that gives me a little bit of positivity, I guess.
Right. I'm trying to mentally prepare for the Elon Musk Nazi robots showing up at her door to
Right,
take us
right,
all to
yeah,
camps and shit.
yeah.
I know, and it's probably not the best way to think
Everybody
about
gets a Neuralink implant, and then we get programmed to be
All
Christian
right.
nationalists,
Yeah.
it. There you go.
They're
It's
going
like,
to like load the voting chip, and then you
yep.
go vote, and it automatically makes you vote for whoever they want.
I mean, the sad thing is that we've kind of, I mean, it's obviously not that to that degree, but the fact that he bought Twitter, started hiding all of the
Mhm.
progressive voices. That's what I mean. We've ceded so much ground to the social media companies and everything that have all of our data. They have everything. If they
Mm.
wanted to, they could snap their fingers and silence all leftist voices.
Yeah.
We,
That's
I,
so true.
Yeah.
I was talking to my mom yesterday, and she was like, "Oh, do you have Twitter still?" And I was like, "No, I haven't used it since it became X." And she was like, "Oh, well, like back when it was still Twitter, they were hiding her posts." My mom's like in her 60s, right? Like she lives in Switzerland and she doesn't even live here. And she was just, but she would often post stuff against Trump, and she was saying that her posts were being hidden. So I was like, wow, like that's crazy. Like I didn't even know they were doing that. But
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
because what their whole method, it seems, is claim that the other side's doing it and then do it. Like that seems to be what they do. So like their whole thing was, oh man, they were hiding the Twitter files. Remember that? And like they're hiding, they were like hiding stories and stuff to say that like make it so that Biden would win and
Yeah,
everything.
holding back stories that the government was asking them that, yeah, yeah. That was his whole reasoning, saying that he was gonna make it a fair playing field on social media. Now he's done the complete opposite.
It flipped it. Right.
Yeah.
It's good. Like, well, they did it, even though they didn't. But all they got to do is say that they did it, and then they can do it. And that's just, it's the rubber and glue type of stupid fucking politics. I get so irritated with it, because it's like truth doesn't matter. It's just whatever you could say. Like right now, it's just like there's fraud there, and everybody's like, oh, well, and we're like, no, there's no fraud. And they're like, prove there's no fraud. And they're like, that's not how proving things works. Okay. Now he
Yeah.
needs to prove there is fraud. That's how proving things works. But like, see, I gotta bring it down. It's okay.
No,
man.
you're good. You're good, Brentley.
My chest
Some
left right.
meditation, some meditation.
There we go. Yeah. I'm gonna do a quick 5-minute guided. I'll be right back. No.
Let's try to bring down
Bring down the heat.
the topic. Let me think. So earlier you mentioned that you were homeschooled, and so I imagine that you were homeschooled into a Christian sort of curriculum.
Oh yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
was like very far. It was literally like right wing propaganda, to
Okay.
the point where it was like they had like all of the southern like talking points and stuff
Mhm.
in the history, right? So the fact that it was a Christian nation, stuff like that.
Oh.
y- you know,
Okay.
as far as I was taught, yeah, they were all Christians that were the founding fathers, and they wanted it to be a Christian nation, stuff like that, right? But yeah, and then also just like some really inappropriate stuff when it came to like the Civil War. Like it wasn't about the thing that you think it's about. It was about states' rights.
Mm.
And yeah, it's they're like rights to do what though, like but they didn't go that direction.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was listening to I think it was Seth Andrews, and he was talking about something very similar. He was like, when he was going to a Christian school, they will have them wear like these ties with like the American flag and like the American pin and all of that. It was like very, very patriotic, focused religious teaching, and it made me wonder, like, do you think that fundamentalist schools, or even in homeschool, like, are these trying to train children into becoming Christian nationalist adults?
Oh hell yeah, I would say. I think that's that's the whole point, right? Is to get them to, well, first of all, doubt any kind of mainstream narrative. And that's the sort of thing that was happening when I was a kid. Like, so they were teaching you that they're lying out there with anything that they're being taught, evolution to, political science or art degree, whatever. Like, it's all like, they're just lying and manipulating everybody. Now you are being told the truth. And that's why, but it was all like I said, like Christian nationalist kind of like talking points and stuff. And I think you're right. I think it was meant to have people grow. They try to keep you insulated as much as they possibly can. Like, don't I wasn't allowed to talk to other people if they were not Christian. I wasn't allowed to really hang out with them or anything, because then I might like be influenced by like other worldviews and stuff, right? So they try to keep you as insulated as possible. And so that way, when you do finally come of age, you've been so like brainwashed your whole childhood that you don't question stuff. And in fact, questioning what your parents believe feels like you're doing something wrong in your
Yeah,
heart. You
yeah.
know, you're like,
Mhm.
oh man, I shouldn't be. Why am I asking questions? So damn curiosity. Stop it. Stop it. You know, you feel bad about it. It's weird, but
Yeah,
yeah,
we have a teenager, and like I try my best to be super open and try to like engage with all different types of people, not just non-religious, and like treat them with kindness and everything. But I'm like, yeah, like I try to like make sure that we are not indoctrinated, not teaching someone what to think, but teach them how to think rather than what to think. So hopefully, I don't know. I do hope that people start to realize that the whole purpose of what they're doing, trying to take away the Department of Education and the school vouchers and all of that. It's just an attempt to, yeah, to do what
Yeah.
you just said, right? To like make a bubble for all these little Christian kids that they know are at their most vulnerable um, age, where they're just
Well, that's the best
absorbing
time to
everything.
indoctrinate. Yeah, I mean, it's the
right.
best time. Yeah.
And it's ironic that they'll sit there and call uh, anything that isn't specifically their religion indoctrination. They want to indoctrinate them into believing that gay people exist. And it's like, what the like? You can't indoctrinate people into not your religion. That doesn't make any sense, man. Like adding information to the pot that they can have access to is not indoctrination. It's limiting the type of access to information that makes it indoctrination, right? As far as I can tell. But they see it as just if they have a friend who's trans, well, then that's indoctrinating them that into the belief that trans people exist, which it's not a belief, that's just a fact, like that they do.
They do exist. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
insane, but they want to keep them away from that because they think if they don't know about it, well, then they can't, choose to be trans, which is again is not how anything works. But yeah, it's
Yeah, I mean that's definitely like the whole purpose of what they're doing with all these executive orders, trying to be like, oh, God created just men and just women, and there doesn't exist anything else. Like they're completely erased not just trans people, but intersex people who are like truly in the middle. Like if there's so many different factors that determine whether somebody's a man or a woman, and not all of them always match one side of the other. So it's like it's crazy.
yeah.
But I mean, that's definitely where, as we were talking at the beginning of the show, like all the social norms, we can we can clearly see how religion has shaped one of the major social norms that we have as far as gender, right? Like men are expected to be like this strong and assertive and unemotional, like don't have boys don't cry.
Uh,
um,
uh,
Women are supposed to be like caring and submissive, like listening to your husband, doing whatever he wants, make sure that you all made up when he gets home from work, right? Like men are supposed to go to work. Like these are some very, very, to me, problematic. But why do you think even I don't know, I've seen even in non-religious circles, it can be hard for people to accept that um, women should have more freedom, more independence, more like whether they want to go to work in, I don't know, construction, or like all of these masculine um, outdated ideas. Like why is it so hard for people to fight against that, to like
I mean, as far as I could tell, it's just like it makes people uncomfortable. The people that have the privilege, and it makes them uncomfortable because and it's so funny too, because like when you're talking about gender norms and all that, you notice that the people that are like shouting the loudest about it tend to not be very masculine. Like it's guys that are like, we need to bring masculine men back. And it's like Tucker Carlson. And you're like, are you kidding me? You're the masculine guy? He's like, yeah, we need to make men like me again. And it's like, dude, no, you're not what you're even describing as masculine. Like, can you even grow a beard? That's my question, because I don't think you can. But and say what, Jordan Peterson? Are you fucking kidding me?
Sure.
You sound like Kermit the Frog. Like there's no way, and Ben Shapiro, he's a chipmunk. You got chipmunks, you got like puppet or Muppet people. Like you got, it's just like, and yeah, of course, these are the people going, we need to bring back all the masculinity. And it's like, my God, this is so sad. Like, and so they're just insecure. That's really what it is.
It is
And so,
insecurity for sure. I agree with that.
and
Yeah,
they just,
I think that's true. I think that's true. When we were I was on a show with Ethan Michael and Sakura Rarity, and we were talking about purity culture and why it's so hard for men to be like, hey, I'm bisexual, or like, hey, like I like puppies, or like I like I don't know,
I hate puppies.
wear nails or whatever. Like I know
Puppies are too soft. I have a problem with the softness. It's too soft. I like
yeah, like
sandpaper pets. Tk you very much.
jeez, yeah.
Have a porcupine for a pet. You
Yeah.
make sure your hand gets cut up every time you pet your animal.
Builds calluses, it builds
Yeah, right.
Character, that's character right there. Jesus. But yeah, I feel you.
yeah, I really think that's exactly like that type of toxic masculinity is what makes it so hard um for them to accept trans women, because it's like nobody ever talks about trans men. It's like
I know.
they're just like it's
They-
so weird. It's so weird. Like women are not complaining about trans men. To me, what I've seen is men complaining about trans women. That's about it.
right. And I honestly, I don't know.
Well, they're worried. They're worried that they're gonna find a trans woman sexy or attractive, and then they're like, oh, and then it
Yes.
hurts their ego.
That is it. Or like they're just like, hold on, now I don't know who to fuck. I am very confused. Like,
Yeah,
that's what I think it was more, is like, I can't, because I'm not supposed to be attracted to, because of course I got shame involved with being attracted to somebody that's the same, that has the same downstairs parts. And so if I am accidentally attracted, then I feel like I'm gay or something. Like, it's just so weird. And it's just like, my God, it's because you're focusing on all the wrong stuff, man. Like, and making it weird when it doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
yeah. There's like such a yeah. I keep wondering like what is the obsession with what someone has down there, and it seems to start even with kids. They're like, oh, like why are you letting your kid wear a dress, like your boy wear a dress, like I don't know, because it's just a piece of fabric.
It's
Like
clothes. Who cares? Like, geez Louise.
like should a piece of fabric determine who has what body parts? Okay, say you have an accident and you chop your arm off accidentally. Are you no longer allowed to wear long sleeves because
Right.
you no longer have that body part? Like, come on, yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Jeez.
I don't know. That's what I like to compare it to, because when I think about, I don't know, there was this actor that was wearing a dress at the red carpet recently, and there was like a whole outrage about it, and we had a family member making fun of this person that was wearing a dress. Well, he says he's assigned male at birth, but he's non-binary and wears all types of clothing, and I was like, dude, like calm down. He's like, it makes this person happy, feels confident, like you feel like you're being your authentic self, you're putting your best effort forward. What more could you want for somebody that you love than for them to be happy in whatever they decide to wear that day? Like, just support them, right?
Yeah, well, because it all just ends up being an act, It's like everything is an act to these people, and it's like you have to fall in line with, like you were saying, like these social norms that really they're only norms because everybody's required to act, and because everybody's like required to play this part and kind of like feel like they fit into this. But it's a huge problem because like most people don't fit into this this binary man, woman, masculine, feminine framework at all. Like most of us are somewhere in the middle, right?
Mhm.
And they just want to do away with all of that nuance and just be like, no, it's as long as you're a man, you should be talking like this. You should say that. I mean, there was a video that I saw, and I almost want somebody to like parody it. Like maybe I might work on that, but it was like this guy who is so obsessed with acting manly, he had a whole channel on TikTok that taught you like how to like stand up as a man. They're like, don't stand up like this all quick. And see, no, you're
Like
so awkward. That's awkward.
proper etiquette to be a masculine man.
Yeah, yeah. He's like, here's how you stand up.
Etiquette,
Okay.
etiquette.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I need somebody to parody this like so bad because like this would be so fun. But it's just, and that's how obsessed they are in their mind. They're like, wait, but how did I stand up though? Did I stand up manly? I don't know. I felt like I got up too quick that time, and now now everybody thinks I might be a woman or something or halfway between. Oh my god, I can't believe like it's just their weird insecurity that they're causing for themselves. That's the strange part. It's like they're making things worse on themselves and they don't even fucking realize it.
I mean, Brentley, would you say that it's okay for, are we arguing that all masculinity is bad? Like, is it okay for a man to be masculine, to want to be masculine, as long as they don't push that norm on everybody, right? I mean, if you want to say you're a masculine man and you know, that's who you are, you know, just as long as you don't push that on other people, I mean, that's okay. Would you all agree with that or no?
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
agree with that.
yeah.
I think the problem is not necessarily the masculinity; it's the pressure to perform, right? So it's like it's like you can be like there's a lot of just naturally masculine people, right?
Mhm.
But they're not pressuring themselves to perform masculine. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so like
I get you.
it's like you should be like AJ was saying, like just be your authentic self.
Yeah, if that's who you are, then that's who you are. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. But you shouldn't have that pressure to perform, and you shouldn't put that pressure on other people to perform, which is sort of what all of toxic masculinity is. It's
Yeah.
just an
But
act that they require of everybody.
but they try to push you know, people that support masculinity, they push it on, you know, they go against our view, basically, you know, arguing that we're trying to rid of masculinity, but that's not really the case. We're trying to rid of toxic masculinity, basically, you know.
Right. Yeah. They're of course, you know, they gotta spin it. They gotta
Yeah,
spin it that way. Like they just hate masculine men. That's what it is. It's like, no, dude, we don't care. We have no idea, you know, we have no problem with people being masculine. It's just when you enforce it and then like bully people because they might have a chipmunk or Muppet voice, you know. I don't want them to get bullied. That wouldn't be nice, right? So actually I'm advocating for Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson to not get bullied. You know, I feel like
Yeah.
they should be on my side here, but I don't get it.
Yeah, I think something you said earlier about them trying to put everything into a binary, and it clicked something for me. Like they're trying to make everything either good or bad. Like men good, women bad. You know, straight is good, gay is bad. Being white is good, being black is bad. It's like they're trying to make these two boxes and completely keep it to those that binary of social norms. Yeah, completely.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's
Well, and it's
crazy.
like it makes sense in certain like in degree, like because like as far as like your brain goes, like and, like a lot of times our like oversimplifying stuff is really helpful for us to be able to
Yeah,
to keep on thinking later, right? Because it can get lost in it. But so our brain likes to simplify everything, right? But that's you know, it's not good though. You know what I mean? Like we need to be able to deal with the nuance and not oversimplify everything into good and bad and black and white thinking. I mean, religion, period, causes black and white thinking, right?
yeah,
That's just something that
yeah,
it
it does.
does, you know, which leads to a lot of mental health issues, honestly, because then everything's black and white in your mind. And it's like if you do something that you are like not super thrilled about, you're like, I am so bad now. I'm just a bad person. I'm evil. I'm so good. I need to go get forgiveness from a sky wizard now because I ate that cookie when I said I wasn't going to eat cookies on Tuesdays. And now here I got to go. Like, you know, you got to, it's just, it factors into all that self, I don't know, like like toxic shame, guilt, and all that type of stuff, you know?
yeah. It absolutely does. It kind of like weaponizes like shame and control, like especially over women's bodies. I would say that's one of the main things that they try to control. I mean, it's just crazy how deeply religion has embedded itself into all sorts of social um, norms that we have. Like, yeah, I don't know, idea that heterosexuality is like the default, right? Like
Yeah.
marriage has to be between a man and a woman, or like you have to be absolutely have to be monogamous, otherwise there's you're a slut, or
Right. Yeah. A lot of
it's like
shame there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I mean, woman having more than one partner is just a slut. But if
A
man
man,
does
it's
it, it's like,
okay. Yeah.
oh, bro,
Yeah.
good
High
job.
five, high five. Yeah, yeah,
Just the fawns. That's
uh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it even goes into I don't know. We talk about the punk sort of movement, um, tattoos. Okay, like religion is like very much against tattoos, right? Uh,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
body like expectations of women being extremely feminine, like how exactly do we go about, like there's just so many people that hold those views. How exactly are we going to move forward with trying to unlearn all of these toxic messages that are literally everywhere, like in pop culture, in kids
I
culture? It's
I
like
think
it's everywhere.
by having open conversations like this, I mean, that's what we have to do. You have to continue to have this type of information available, these type of views available for other people to come across and be able to
Yeah.
open their mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think, like we were talking about before, as far as like in-person organizing, I think being in person and doing like social stuff, because a lot of us are kind of gotten out of doing a lot of social stuff. We don't interact with people, especially people that are different a lot of times. And so if we like go be at a bowling lane, go whatever, go do some kind of thing like that where you interact with people, where people can see you first, right? Before they get to like know all of your views or whatever,
Yeah.
because a lot of times on social media the views come first, and then you kind of don't even, because of bots and stuff, you don't even know if they're really a human if you actually think about it. Like, you
Right.
just know that this view pisses you off and you don't like it, and they make you mad. But when you're around actual people, you humanize those people first, and then when they start talking to you and they're like, oh man, yeah, I didn't think about that. You're right. Nobody should treat people. I wouldn't like to be treated like that. And having those in-person conversations, I just think is really helpful. And that's I want to make it clear that's a very privileged thing for me to say, because not everybody can do that. But as a cisgendered white guy, I know I can have a lot more access than a lot of people do. But I still think it's a good idea to get out there and try to interact with people in real life and have those conversations.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's been really good for us meeting all of these atheist sort of community in YouTube. I'm lucky that one of the ones that I'm most involved with is really close to us. So we've met a lot of people in person and like have like really awesome type of conversations, about important stuff, and I don't know, help people with fundraisers for good causes, and not just like going out there and protesting, but like actually doing some more chill community building, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got tickets to go to Free Flow this year. So I'm like, it's gonna be my
Oh, that
first.
one is in Florida, right?
hmm Yeah, that's where
Oh,
I'm
that's
at down here
awesome.
Yeah,
in
that was the one you were telling
Hellville.
me about, right, AJ? The one in Florida you were mentioning. Yeah.
Yeah,
Seth
the
Andrews
one.
is gonna be there, right? I believe. Seth
I
I
think
think
Andrews.
so.
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Have you met him before?
I have actually. Yeah, he came
Okay.
down.
Yeah.
He did a thing in Clearwater a while ago, and I got the book and got it signed and stuff. It was
Yeah,
pretty
he's a
cool,
he's
Yes,
a cool
same
guy. We
here.
got to meet him here in Houston too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, same. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, there's like so many really cool people that are doing great things in the atheist community. You included, yourself included,
Oh,
yeah.
thank
Because
you.
I mean, we always need like a little bit of fun, a little bit of like chill out, like you know, uh,
Yeah,
because
I try to lighten it up a little bit. I don't know. I noticed there's a lot of very serious conversations going on in the community, which is great. I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but I feel like I can't.
no,
I have to like have some levity, otherwise I'll lose my mind. I can't, you know.
I know, right? You gotta find a way to cope, and I feel like comedy is definitely one of those things. Music, comedy, oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah. Did you ever do comedy yourself? Like stand-up comedy or something?
Yeah, I did it for a little bit,
Nice.
back in the
Okay.
day.
Okay.
It was like I didn't do it too. I mean, I did about like what, 4 or 5 times, and but my whole life I'd had a hard time with what's the right way to say that? just like if you had a bad night, it was like, that's it, it's done. No, I forget it. Like I
You
could
don't want
do
to do it
well.
again.
Yeah. I could do well 3 nights in a row. And then that fourth night, not do well and be like, that's it. I'm terrible. I quit. Throw in the towel. And that's kind of what happened. But back then I was doing like I was a conservative and I was a, Christian and everything still. So it was kind of like doing stuff in that vein anyway. So, honestly, the fact that I got anybody to laugh is pretty impressive with those kind of beliefs. But not, they're not very inviting. But yeah. So, but no, yeah, I did that a while ago. It's just very difficult in person. I was so thankful to find podcasting and doing the online spaces because then I feel a bit more like relaxed. It's
Yeah,
just
you're in your space too when you're doing it. So yeah, it definitely makes it more easier to do. I
Yes,
couldn't get up in
definitely.
front of a crowd and do stand up. I'd being on the stage just frightens me. So
it. Yeah, there were times when it was just like, oh, I forgot how I think thoughts now. And you just because everybody's just staring at you and you like know your routine, and then all of a sudden it just out your brain, and you're like, oh no, this is not
Right, it just like walked away, like, oh, I'm not in here anymore.
right. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
so
jeez.
funny. That's funny. Yeah, I always have such a hard time like doing improvisation type stuff. So I always prepare myself for the live shows, and yeah, so I don't run into that type of, oh hey, my thought walked away. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's tough. Yeah. I don't know. Jeez.
So I had a question. Well, another question for you. More like religion related to how you deconverted and everything. Like, what was the hardest religious dogma, sort of like that, or belief or idea that you held, that was the hardest one for you to give up? That your mind was just like, no, that's still true.
Right. It was probably the Ray Comfort, everything had to be created, kind of like
Oh
bring it,
man.
well, that
Okay.
gets implemented pretty young. And it's almost, that argument from ignorance is so easy to latch on to and just be like, yeah, man, something had to create it because how else did all this? You telling me nothing made kittens? It's just it it makes, I don't know. It's probably the deepest in there. But the more you like, look at like reasoning and just understanding like post hoc rationalizations and then just hidden premises and stuff like that, you can kind of see that like, oh no, you've just been programmed since being a kid with everything had to be created. It was like I always use the analogy that like when Ray Comfort would say an atheist believes the scientific impossibility that nothing created everything, right? That's almost like a kid talking to a grown up and being like, what time is your bedtime? And you go, oh, I actually don't have a bedtime. They go, so you just stay up all night? That's crazy. That's impossible. You have to have a bedtime. Your parents have to make you go to bed at some point because they can't even wrap their head around the fact that, you go to bed when you need to, and you don't have to be put to bed by your parents because that's not the way things work for you. But yeah, and it's the same way. It's just like, oh, everything had to be created. But you run into like a super logical like a super duper logical problem when you go, okay, well then what had to create the creator? And then it just keeps going back and you're like, oh man, you just kind of kicked the can down the road and saying that something, if it had to be created, well then something had to create the thing that had to do the creating. And then it just kind of throws a wrench in the whole thing.
Yeah,
definitely.
that's a question that comes up so much from religious people. Like, well, if if everything is created, then how can you not believe that we were created too?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you ever seen that video, Joe, with the Ray Comfort and the banana?
I have with Kirk Cameron.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the one with the can and the banana. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna play it if you hadn't, but if you've seen it, yeah,
I'm
go
pretty
ahead.
sure I've seen it. It's an older video, right? It's like he's sitting on a chair with a banana, like on the stage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And said that it had to be designed because it has like a tab to like open the
Yeah, to
banana,
open it. Yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and yet the whole thing was designed by genetic whatever, like GMOs or whatever. And it's so funny.
Intelligent design.
oh, the banana was created by yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
It was
Yeah,
like inedible, basically.
crazy,
Like it was
man.
full of seeds. It was small. It was the skins were super thick. Like it was you could barely eat them at all. And then we of course modified the genetics or whatever and made it so it's a nice big
To be able to eat
banana
it.
with
Yeah,
the top. And we even made it the size of your hand. No, I don't know about that, but like
yeah.
that was one of his things. He even counted the notches on your hand. See, one notch, two notch,
Oh man.
doing two notch, and then
It's been a
look the
while
whole.
since I've seen it. I don't remember it being that detailed, but yeah.
Wow, dude, you
Oh
were looking at a
man.
banana for way too long, dude. Stop, put the banana down and read a book. Okay, come on. Jeez Louise. It's crazy. My goodness.
That's true, yeah, but yeah, go read a book. That would be a good idea. I'm not really sure that they read that many books over there.
Just the
Uh,
one. Just the one book, yeah. And really just the couple of chapters. Just Matthew through John. That's it. That's all they do, you know.
yeah, I mean, sometimes it blows my mind that I fell into the traps of religion. I think it was just because I moved here when I was so young. I was like 15. So it's like that time where you're just like kind of like going a little bit away from what your parents taught you into what society's teaching you, and you're like listening more to like outside perspectives. So like coming right into we moved into the house of some people that were, I think they were evangelists. I'm pretty sure. I can't remember exactly, but they were like one of the more fundamentalist sort of religions. Um, so it was like being dropped into the deep end of the religious pool to like kind of like learn all about it. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
there are a lot of just psychological and environmental pressures that do make sense for why people do choose to do this. Because a lot of times you'll put your own agency aside so that you can fit in, and it plays a lot along those lines. That's why a lot of times they want you to come to the church where they can all act like this stuff is super normal. And if you don't believe it, well, now you're surrounded by a bunch of people that do. And there's almost like this psychological, like mirror neuron type of thing that makes it so you want to start mirroring other people's behaviors so that you can fit in, right? And of course, they love bomb you. They have all these mechanisms to try to, get you into it. But yeah, it's so it's it's easy to fall into it, really, especially if you're like going through hard times too, because there's this like there's this kind of like mechanism in your brain that like I made choices that led to bad decisions. How can I make better decisions? I won't make any more decisions. I'll hand that over to somebody else, and then they can make my decisions for me. And oh, doesn't that feel nice that I don't have to think anymore? It's but so there's a
Yeah,
lot. There's a lot.
I think that has a lot to do with it. Yeah, like I would say when I got the most into it was when I was pregnant with or now teenager, and they were being diagnosed with a heart condition, and I was kind of like, it was so hard and such a vulnerable time that I was like, you know what, like it's not my decision to make. When I was offered to terminate the pregnancy, I was like, I'm just gonna leave it up to God.
Yeah, I
And
remember
that's when we got
yeah,
really into that, like
yeah,
praying and going
yeah.
to church.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's times like those where it can really push you over the edge into the religious culture, for sure.
Yeah, it's funny because it's actually the one thing that got me out of it too. It was like that was like when my baby was first born. But then when they were like 9, they had to have another open heart surgery, and it was completely different than the one they had when they were a baby, because now
Mm.
they were older kid and understood things and the
Worried about what's gonna
pain.
happen. Yeah.
Right. They're
uh,
scared. Yeah.
yeah, and they
Mm.
were like able to feel that pain more and like tell you about it. And it was like I was just sitting there by their bed like holding their hand, and like nothing else I could do. And I was like, what kind of god is like allowing this? And like there's people out there that are telling me they're praying for my baby, like, but this is still happening. Why did the prayers not work? So
Right. Wait,
yeah, that
why?
was like
Where?
the thing that got me out of.
Yeah, because they're always saying like it's so odd to me when they start bringing up God in situations like that. Because I'm like, wouldn't it be the God that caused this in the fucking first place? Like, what's going on with that? You
Yeah.
know? Because it's like I never understood like, oh, God saving them. And it's like, yeah, after getting them sick, and then they had to live the rest of their life with in a condition, like whatever, But it's like he
But then they
caused the
say, but
problem.
but God wanted you to go through that and see that so you'll become a stronger person. That's what they'll argue against it, but
Yeah.
it's like, well, that's pretty fucking mean to make you have to go through that to in order to realize that there's a God. I don't know. It's like,
Right. And what about
Like,
all the people that were just like born into slavery, tortured their whole lives, and then died?
right?
What lesson were they learning?
Yeah, yeah.
That's where it grosses me out. And I started thinking of stuff like that. You know?
yeah,
I would
yeah.
say that's the type of things that drew me away from it. Like I said, I was never very religious, but I kind of fell into I guess, the image that I had to make my mom feel like that I was accept, that I did believe in Jesus, to make her feel comfort. Um, and it's funny because me pretending that I felt that made AJ believe that I really was a religious person, even though in my mind I wasn't. And she started falling deeper into religion, and then we were both kind of like, oh, we're both religious now, I guess. So we go to church now.
Oh, damn.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was kind of like this unspoken thing, like we didn't
Yeah,
really talk about it. It was just like it just happened, and the moment that I was like, well, we let God decide about the baby. It was like we were both like, all right, okay, then we both believe in God now.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And it was like, yeah,
Wow. But the
but
parental pressure is a big thing too. I think
It
there's like,
is.
there's an unspoken, and here's
Yeah.
the thing. I feel like this is why religion lasts so long, I think, is because parents want to control everything even after they're gone. And so they can put up these like hell and heaven parameters in a religious thing, but then they can still be controlling you in your mind after they've passed. I don't know. Maybe that's
yeah,
just like a
I mean, there probably are some parents that would use that concept. I mean, like now, like my mom knows that I don't believe in all that, and she's completely fine with it. She still loves me, and it's actually a big weight off of my chest, to feel like, oh, my mom doesn't, she still loves me for who I am, even though I say that I don't believe in Jesus anymore, and I still respect her religion, and we're completely fine.
right.
So
Yeah. I don't know if I can honestly, it's hard for me to when I talk to my parents. I know they're like, I still love you. They say that a lot.
yeah.
And I'm like, I
um,
appreciate, but I don't know. It's hard for me to, I'm like, yeah, but I get like I'm a grown up. I understand that parents don't all love their kids equally. That's not true. Like, and stuff like that. So I don't know. Sometimes it feels like it's just like I'm supposed to say this, but that's most of what religious people are. Is I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to think this. I'm supposed to be this, and that's it. It's just living by the supposed. That's what I call it. But,
yeah, and I think there's a lot of guilt involved. I think for Joe, personally, I remember when we first started talking more about religion, like over the past year or so, he was a lot more open about it, and he was like, yeah, like I feel guilty that um, my mom believes so deeply in heaven, and that she thinks that if I don't believe, then she's not gonna see me in heaven, and I don't want her to think that. So that was kind of like why he was going along with it. So
right.
like, yeah, so yeah, I think that like parenting should focus more on like making sure that your kids know that you're gonna accept them no matter what, like not only if you fit in this box.
Well, I was always the odd child out of the three of us anyway. I as a teen I was a goth punk during phases, and had long hair, different colors, and I was the rebel. My other brothers were a lot different than me. So
Right.
I
I'm
think
right
my
there with
mom
you.
my mom
Yeah.
probably always knew that I was different.
Right. Yeah, I was same way, same way. Yeah, pretty much the only like punker like that in the family.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think it's so hard to like engage with family after coming out as an atheist, especially if they're still deeply into religion. We have a specific family member that's always like, oh, I don't know, he's very against gay people, but then he'll be like, oh, but I have a gay family member and I still love them. And I'm like, well, but do
Right.
you accept what they well, like, no, I don't accept it, but I love them still. I'm like, well, so you tolerate them.
Tolerate,
He
yeah.
Yeah.
was like, yeah.
So, because loving somebody, it like that includes accepting. How do you love somebody you don't accept? Like acceptance is like a lesser level of like human interaction than love, which you like that's a prerequisite, is what I'm saying. You got to get through the acceptance part to get to the loving part because that's
Right.
crazy. Like, how did he,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, like saying stuff like, uh, "I'll pray for you," like,
Oh
like,
God.
"Oh, come on, like what? You're gonna pray my gay away or something?"
Right. Yeah. Oh gosh.
So then, yeah, so that means that you don't truly love someone for who they are. Yeah, because like I don't know, one of the most important um messages that affected me the most while I was starting to listen to all these atheist people and like all types of different I don't know, books and podcasts, like you said. um I learned about Gabor Mate. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
Who is it? Say it again.
Gabor Mate. he's like a he's a doctor and author, and he has really good information about addiction and childhood trauma stuff. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Huh. No, I don't know that one.
okay,
I'll have to get
I'll
that
send you
coming
the
after.
name
Yeah,
Yeah,
later.
you'd probably
please
like
do.
some of his stuff, Brentley. I've watched a
Yeah.
couple of his stuff, and yeah, it's very, very in depth and detailed.
Yeah, so
Oh,
like
yeah.
earlier we were talking about, being your authentic self. That was like one of the key things that helped me the most in coming into the YouTube community, because I was like, well, I can't really do this. But anyway,
Right.
so he says that when in one of his books that humans have two fundamental needs. One of them is attachment, and one of them is authenticity. So the attachment is your need to be loved or like accepted, and connect to, when you're a kid, to your caretaker; when you're an adult, to your partner, your friends, your family. And so basically that's like the connection to others. And then your authenticity is like your connection to yourself, like being true to yourself, expressing your feelings, your needs, following your inner voice. And so he says that when these two needs conflict, like if we lose people because we are being ourselves, then this disconnection from ourselves is what leads to people having sort of like trauma and not feeling confident, not feeling happy with themselves. And that healing means going back to your own roots, like to reclaiming your authenticity, like being who you really feel like you are. Not don't pretend like you're someone else just to fit into the box of that person that you're trying to have a connection with. Like the more authentic you are to yourself, the better people are gonna connect with you. And the ones that don't accept you and don't connect with you on that, then maybe they're not meant to be part of your circle. So I think that society as a whole needs more of that, more of like embracing the idea that individuals are individuals, that everybody is different, that there's no like binary, that there's just like all sort of like shades of different colors in the middle, right? And yeah, so I think that's what is so important about challenging all of these social norms that we were talking about, to allow everybody to be their authentic selves and be happier and make better connections. You know.
Yeah, I mean, well, and like it's crazy you're talking about this guy. Like, I'm just now reading a book about this sort of thing. It's like all complex PTSD, and like how you don't accept yourself, like you're ashamed of like who you are, and so you're putting on all these masks all the time, and it leads to addiction because anytime that you have to sit with yourself, you're like, I hate this guy that it's here in my head with me sucks. I hate him. He's the worst. And so you're just trying to like drink away that uh, that just sitting with yourself because you don't accept yourself, usually because like a family member or a religion or something like that made you feel like there was something inherently wrong with you. And so you try, you don't accept yourself, and then you kind of like, and you don't love yourself. That's a big part of it too, is self-love and healing in that regard. Because again, religious indoctrination tells you not to do that. That's being selfish. And you can't even take credit for stuff. If you do something good, you can't say, yeah, I did that. Even in your own head, you're like, oh, you feel bad about
Yeah.
that. You're like, oh no, God did that through me. I can't take credit for anything, okay? Because I'm just garbage, nothing, terrible. And it's like that gets deep in your head, And then you don't take care of yourself. That's when you start doing drugs. It's when you start like not taking care of your hygiene and whatever, your health. You don't care anymore because you're like,
Yeah.
I don't really deserve to be taken care of anyway because I'm the worst. And yeah, it's that kind of mental mind fuck that religion really puts in there. For me, I've had to do a lot of mindfulness practices and self acceptance and stuff like that, and it's really been earth shattering in that regard. It's been very helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think.
what
Yeah,
I
go
would say,
ahead, Joe.
religion probably is one of the major factors, or one of the major players that actually dehumanize and make people feel lesser. Um, I mean, there are other things, but I think religion is a main player in that field.
Yeah, they got
Yeah,
to
like
break your spirit.
you're weak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
if
you're
Yeah,
they can.
nobody
exactly.
without God, basically. I come up with the saying, be your own God. Like take basically take like if you do something, praise yourself for it. Be your own God. If you did good, don't feel ashamed to praise yourself.
No, got to. You got to be able to love yourself and be okay. Like you're going to be with you your whole life. So you got to be able to be with you. And religion tries to get you, specifically fundamentalist Christianity and stuff like that,
Yeah.
try to get you to not be okay with yourself. That way you run right back to them and then let them, tell you what you're supposed to be doing and then get you to just be acting outside of your autonomy. You're just handing your autonomy over to the group and like that's where you get your self-acceptance because like you only accept yourself when you're doing. It's like what you're doing is what you're supposed. And it's like no, you need to be able to accept yourself even at your worst, even when you're not doing good and you know it. You still got to be like, yeah, but I still love myself. I'm still accept myself. And if you can, and that's what I think religion uses to pull people in to religion so often is they don't feel okay with themselves. They feel bad about themselves. And so they're like, I got to do something to fix who I am. And that's
Hmm.
why forgiveness is so like, forgiveness from God or whatever is so alluring to people like that.
Yeah, that giving up your body autonomy is so problematic with religion. Like, there's just so many horrible ideas, like people not being allowed to, have abortions or like decide what to do with your body. I don't know what to do with the way that you look like. Women have to cover up because God forbid that tempt a man.
Yeah.
uh, it's like,
That's your
um,
responsibility, apparently.
well,
Jesus.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah, like I never until very very recently when I came across all those Gabor Mate stuff that I was just talking about was when I started to realize that I was also living um, in that idea of living up to others' expectations of what I was supposed to be like. Because growing up, I hated all girly stuff. Okay, I was a tomboy. Then when I went into all this religious stuff, I was like, well, I'm expected to like look feminine and like grow my hair. My mom, she hated when I cut my hair every time. Well, she would always want me to wear my hair down and long. So it was like very like, even though she wasn't religious, she sort of had some of those old school type of feminine ideals. She's not like that anymore. But anyways, growing up, it was that way. So for me, I was like, well, I have to be feminine. So I started like doing things that I hated, like wearing my hair like really long or like um I don't know, like wearing dresses, like skirts, which I don't really enjoy. So the way that I deconstructed from that and started realizing, hey, you know what? I like wearing just a black hoodie and like green hair
oh
and my
yeah.
black nails and got a tattoo and all that. Like that's who I feel the most comfortable being. So like, yeah, I think that's the best way that we can heal is like allowing our inner self to express itself outwardly.
Yeah. Yeah. Be what
Yeah,
you like, not
yeah,
what somebody
Yeah,
else
yeah,
expects.
self-expression is very important. I mean, very important.
yeah,
Hell yeah. Yeah. You don't, because you're just going to be miserable if you're living according to like, and being like saying things are cool and looking like how, the other people are putting on you. And you're just like in your own head, you're like, I don't really actually think this is cool. Like, it's just what sort of, the people around me are saying. That sucks. It sucks when you are having to say and be stuff that you just don't believe or think or want to be. It's just, you feel like a liar, you know?
yeah, for sure. All right, guys. So We've been going at this for about an hour. I'm starving.
That's right
So
at lunchtime. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah, it's like perfect timing, man. So I think I mean we're gonna let you go, but this conversation was great. I think everybody needs to realize that all these very strict social norms that we built are meant to be broken.
That's
Right?
They
right.
are. They are.
So so
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
any closing messages from either of you?
Well, I don't know. Go ahead, Brinley.
I
I
I
don't.
I,
I
I
don't
was
have much to
basically
say. I mean, I just I've enjoyed the conversation. We could go on another 3 hours. Talking about this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely a topic that I enjoy talking about. I mean, we've had other previous shows, so it's definitely cool having you on here, Brinley, and discussing it. That's pretty much it
thank
for
you.
me.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody, as you can see right below the image of Brently, it says Punk Apostate. That's his channel. I think Crystal has posted the link in the chat as well, so everybody knows where to find you. And we always appreciate hanging out with you, and hopefully we can have you back, some other time.
Hell yeah. Just let me know. Just say
Yeah,
when. I'll be here.
definitely have you back for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. All
All right.
right, let's go feed our souls and our bellies.
That's right. Go be yourselves, y'all.
Go be yourselves. Yes. Take care, Brinley. Appreciate
All
you.
right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Take it
Yeah.
easy.
Don't forget to subscribe and like.
Yeah.